Diese Konferenz wird nun aufgezeichnet.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on leadership and influence, moderated by Nadina Gradaščević and hosted by ewpn. My name is Alana Kazihan and I lead the content team at ewpn. Before we get started, I'd like to share and go over a few housekeeping rules. As you know, you will be muted during this webinar, and please, if you join, make sure your camera is switched off. This session is being recorded, so if you have to drop out earlier or you would like to forward this webinar, we will be providing you with a link within 48 hours via email, and we will be posting this recording also on the ewpn YouTube channel. During the webinar, you are all in listen-only mode. You also have opportunity to submit any questions today via text. On the right hand corner, you have a bubble, a chat bubble, and you can submit your question at any time throughout the session. We will collect these questions and address them then during the Q&A at the end of today's presentation. For those of you who are new to European Women in Payments Network, ewpn is a network for women in fintech in Europe. Our events are focused on bringing women in payments together to learn about issues and trends, network with peers, and celebrate achievements from across the payments ecosystem. For more information or to contact us, you can go to our website at www.ewpn.eu. And now I would like to present to you our moderator today, Nadina Gradaščević. Nadina is an executive consultant and certified business leadership coach, speaker and trainer with 15 plus years of international experience in driving and managing sales and business development, pioneering new concepts and products, and advising leading global companies and clients from 30 plus countries. She is a management board member of the Association of Business Service Leaders in Bosnia and Herzegovina, a leading organization representing the business services sector. She's also a co-founder of Association Businesswomen of Bosnia and Herzegovina and a founder of Women in Leadership Community, which aims to bring together high potential women and support their personal and professional development, while encouraging them to explore new paths of leadership and become an outstanding leader. Nadina is committed to the development of sustainable and future-oriented leadership, culture, and to intercultural understanding in global businesses. Welcome, Nadina. Welcome to all the speakers, Maria, Mirha, and Astrid, and I will now let Nadina take over.
Thank you, Elena. Dear participants, dear guests, dear friends, good evening and welcome to our panel discussion on leadership and influence. We have invited 3 exceptional leaders, great personalities, and inspiring women to share their experience and examples of outstanding leadership with us and to discuss what does it mean to be a person of influence. We all have a remarkable privilege to impact people's lives. With this panel discussion, we hope to add value to you and to help you increase your impact and influence so that you can make a positive difference in the world. Your leadership matters. Your influence matters. Who you follow matters too. Question authority and refuse to follow someone who has a title or a position but no integrity. It is my great pleasure to introduce our first guest, Maria Parpou, a senior vice president at Paysafe, where she leads a global product team responsible for building e-commerce payment products. Prior to Paysafe, Maria was a CPO for Barclays Payments, overseeing all the product and digital infrastructure and spearheading the growth of Barclays B2B payments through tech partnerships in the payments ecosystem. Maria is a recognized thought leader in payment innovations and has mentored several fintechs at the Techstar Rise Accelerator program in London. Before her career in payments, Maria worked in strategy roles in investment and corporate banking. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Nadina. Very glad to be here today.
Our second guest is Astrid Masle Boer, an accomplished global senior executive with more than 20 years of success in aligning teams, products, and clients to achieve profitable growth, attain complex client company goals, innovate technical and operational solutions, and build winning cultures in payments, fintech, business intelligence, and digital sectors. Leveraging extensive executive experience in cross-functional leadership for global businesses, Astrid is a valuable asset for companies requiring expert assistance with business development, organizational, product and client strategy, sales enablement, scaling for growth, change management, streamlining operations, and speed to market. Throughout her executive career, Astrid has held leadership positions with BEX, Global Collect Services as a part of Ingenico Group, American Express, WebEx, and Forcer Research, among others. Welcome, Astrid.
Thank you.
Finally, I have the pleasure to welcome Mirha Hasanbegović to our panel. Mirha is a retail board member of Raiffeisen Bank in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the president of the supervisory board of Raiffeisen Invest, and a member of the supervisory board of Raiffeisen Leasing in Sarajevo. Prior to assuming the position of the board member in Raiffeisen Bank, Bosnia and Herzegovina, she worked as a head of retail sales and distribution channels from April 2007 until February 2015, and she has held management positions in the HVB Central Bank Profit Bank, Bank One Chicago, Central Profit Bank, and Island and Peninsular in Kuala Lumpur. Welcome, Mirha.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. I would like to start with a core question. What is influence? John Maxwell says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Maria, what does it mean to be a leader of influence, and how would you define influence?
Thank you, Nadina. Let's start. So the way I see influence is, yes, influencing as a leader means that you motivate people around you to work and behave in a certain way, but it is not just the area of just leader that influences. You can influence without necessarily being a leader. And in fact, if I think back throughout my career, it's a little bit like, think about the teachers. You had many teachers, but you probably only remember one or two. Why? Because they influenced you in the way in which, you say, this particular teacher had an impact on me. In my career, when I think about who are the people who influenced me, they weren't necessarily my direct leaders. Some of them, yes, but a lot of people that I happened to work with and I liked what I saw, or even one of my biggest influencers for leadership has been the chair of a charity that I work with, because I really liked the way he brought people together from a disparate background. And looking the way in which he operated, he very much influenced my thinking of how I can become a more effective leader, because leadership is not just about commanding and controlling or being effective. It's about bringing people together. And for me, this was the influence. And the way he did it was through being principled about, for example, listening to everybody on the table and always trying to bring people together as opposed to putting them apart. So influence for me, and I can talk for hours around this, is something that speaks to your heart and enables you to become better at what you're actually doing. I think that is influence. It's an example setting, but it's also something that connects the mind with the heart and allows you to have a better outcome as a result. So that's how I would describe influence.
So leading with love is a part of that as well.
Yes.
Astrid.
Yeah, for me it's
influence.
Yeah, for me it's about how you can affect someone indirectly, but in an important way. And there are many ways of doing that. I think of it of role models, someone that I respect, someone that I trust, someone that is their authentic self. They're not pretending to be something they're not. And this can be a parent, it could be a neighbor, a teacher, as we just heard. It can be famous people like Kamala Harris, or, you know, everyone has their own favorite, but it's about affecting someone indirectly, but in an important way. That's key for me. And we should all be aware of doing that, because anyone can be that influencer / leader.
Yeah, leadership is a choice. So every day we have plenty of opportunities to grow as a leader, adding value to people and society. It's a decision to serve and to empower people to develop, grow, and succeed. Why did you decide to become a leader?
I don't think I ever made the decision to become a leader. It just was something naturally born out of my passion to just do better, you know, to improve the situations around me, if you like, or improve my job. And, you know, over years, I went into a leadership role because I like to improve things for the better, or I like affecting change. And what I found sometimes is that as a leader, you take a lot of responsibilities, but you also have then the opportunities to affect change for the better. You know, for me, it was a natural thing. I always and I think, you know, those type of leaderships. You don't become a leader because you like the power trip. I mean, this is completely the wrong model. You need to be a leader because you connect passionately with what you want to do, which is to, you know, either progress the company or progress in you know, a particular goal, and you assume a position of leadership to bring people together and to push them towards the direction you want to take.
Thank you. Astrid?
Yeah, for me, it's very similar. So I didn't wake up either one day and say, I want to be a leader. You know, I had one goal, that was to be financially independent. That was my goal. And along the way, someone had trust in me and actually provided me with a leadership opportunity. And as I grew into that role, what I really liked about it is that I was able to empower others to achieve things that they didn't think were possible. So let me give a quick example. I'll call it was a former employee of mine, a team member. I'll call him Bob for easy reference. And I think it was a little bit, we were all young, a little bit of cultural diversity, but he would always be frustrated that I wouldn't give him the answer. I would say, I'm teaching you to fish. Rather than doing it for you. And it was this constant battle. Well, we all went our separate ways, and we recently met up at our 20th anniversary at that particular company. And he came up to me, and we hadn't seen each other in 20 years. And he said two things. He goes, I now understand what you were trying to do when you were trying to teach me how to fish. And that's what I do now for my direct reports. And he also apologized. He goes, I'm so sorry I made your life so difficult. And it's those two things that really made me realize in an indirect way how much influence I had. And I was just trying to get the team to move in the same direction. And I wanted people to be successful and happy. So for me, that was a aha moment that I actually did have so much influence that someone came back and is now passing that along to his teams, etc.
Thank you. Mirha, you are an influential leader. What does it mean? How does it feel to be a person of influence? What is influence?
For me, this is also a beautiful learning process. I'm really enjoying into what Maria and Astrid are saying. And as they rightfully said, it's not the moment where you say, okay, this is the power which I want to have. It's just that you're having passion to do something, to grow something, to improve the things, and then you start to realize that people are actually paying extremely attention to whatever you do, whatever you say. You become then extremely careful on exercising this power. So you start to learn about yourself as well, because this is a non-stop game where you also improve your skills. And you keep listening to people, observing, taking it into your core values, and then bringing them up in order to have as positive effect as you can. I think it's important not to follow blindly any person, to be honest. And I don't think I could really copy a perfect person, which I said, okay, this is perfection, I'll just copy and hope it comes in the same way back to me. But I think you should be always open-minded and learn from people. Like, take the positive, leave the negative, because nobody is perfect. But if you find a person with 70–80% of values which match your values, then really observe how this person behaves. How do they do? Astrid just gave us example how her colleagues started to copy her behavior, and eventually you're becoming somebody whom people follow. That's a great responsibility, because you understand that you can also, if people trust you, that you can also hurt by your actions. So you really have to be very observative on how do you use that power.
True. Thank you. We know that our attitude is a key factor in influencing our success. So Mirha, what attitude and qualities did you need to develop to increase the quality of influence and to achieve excellence in leadership?
When you're listening to other people whom you consider successful leaders, you only see the shine. And I think this is also important for colleagues who want to improve their influential and leadership skills. It's not always black and white. We also made the 2 steps front, 1 step back. So I think you just be open-minded and learn from your experience, because the experience is the one which makes you constantly better and better. It's important to improve your listening skills. It's important to have really good organization with extremely good priority setting, to know how do you invest your time and effort, because we also give more effort if we recognize a certain talent in certain people. So show that you're also observing and listening, and in this way you're also opening yourself up as a potential in whom somebody is going to invest. These would be some core competencies which I think is important. Not just on the side of the, let's say, leader or influencer, but also if you're in the group of talents who are just fine-tuning your leadership skills. Listen, observe, prioritization, and organization, I would say.
Thank you. Influence does not develop by accident, and our influence continuously grows as we take the right actions. This is how we grow as leaders and how we grow other leaders. Well, honestly, it's easier said than done, right? Maria, how did you gain influence as a leader in your company and in your community?
You know, every time I get into a leadership role, you know, I've been in few now, I always set myself a goal, which is by X date, you know, it could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, but my goal is that I am surplus to requirements by, let's say, 3 years time or 2 years time. Let's say I set up a new team. What I mean by that is, like, I want to get to a point where I'm no longer needed, which means that my team can fully, if I decided to leave tomorrow, my team is running on all cylinders and everything is working more or less as it should be without me. Then I feel I have maximized my influence, and my team is I have taken the potential of my team and I've lifted up, and everybody is sort of realizing his true potential, and that, you know, they don't really need me anymore. I hate it when I'm in the middle as a leader and I have to constantly coordinate. Yes, you do that naturally, but I don't feel like I'm doing my job. I'm creating space for people under you to kick you out one day, and hopefully sooner rather than later, because it also means that I can then move up a level and I can see more, because that to me is progress. That's the sort of influence that I always look at, and the way I'm trying to do that is you need to allow people the space to grow as a leader. It cannot always be about you. You need to allow the people who understand their talent, nurture their talent, and bring that out. Because I had that same when I was a junior manager. So I was given the opportunity, and so I'm giving the opportunity back. I think the recording is a bit, we have some background noise. I don't know if you can hear me well.
I can hear you well. It's okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so that's how I kind of think about leadership. You know, how can I make myself surplus to requirements in a nice way? Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add to what Maria now said? Because
of course,
throughout your comments, I think one very important characteristic shows to become so great leader like Maria is, you have to really kill ego in yourself. You constantly have to work to kill ego in you, because leadership and ego just don't go together. Because several times she mentioned to grow people around me, to expand, and this means fight with yourself, because putting yourself in a secondary position is actually making yourself bigger than possible. And I think this is also important that people understand. If you don't constantly work on your ego to put him down to earth, you won't be able to get a feedback, you won't be able to give a power to others. So you just, I think leadership and positive influence and ego simply don't go in one sentence.
Thank you, Mirha. As Astrid, you are active in many professional organizations and community, and in your community. Could you also give us some examples? How do you influence people? And what do you like the most about expanding your influence?
Yeah, I think for me, what's important is I want to gain the people's trust. I want to respect their intrinsic values, and they're going to be different for different people. And I always maintain a really high level of integrity. One of the ways that I build trust, and it took me a little while to figure this out as well, is, I had the role in the title, but I would get some feedback saying, well, we don't really know you. We know you can hit those targets, and we know who your big customers are, your prospects, and we get all that, but who are you? So I think once I kind of figured that out, that I would start talking about my family or some of my hobbies, and I still get people who are starting to get to know me, who are amazed that I actually like to cook. I don't know why. It's amazing that I have a very senior role and I actually like to cook. But anyway, it's those kind of things that break down some of the barriers. And as they get to know you as a person, I find that's how you actually build that trust. And from there, when someone trusts you and respects you, then you can together make those differences that I referred to before, enabling someone else to achieve things that they didn't think were possible. And this can be a variety of things. Obviously, in a business environment, it can be meeting the objectives or exceeding the objectives that were set, but it can also be your personal life, right? I've worked with someone who really had a change in mindset, and she did it on her own. I just encouraged her to do it, and she actually came back later and said, thank you for waking me up. This is so helpful. So it's those small steps that make a big difference to me, but you just can't do it if you don't have trust and if they don't think that you really are who you say you are.
Yes.
I think you also have to have the team's back. I think that is really, really important as a leader. It's like football in a way. We're all one team, but the team leader you have to know that you can trust and I have your back. Whatever happens, I'll take responsibility, because I think as a leader, responsibility is both for the successes, but also for the failures, and the buck stops with me. And I think when people understand that, they do feel it's like a mother hugging their kids, right? So whatever they do, eventually, you're going to be all right with mommy. So it's not quite like that, but they really need to know that you have their interest. And yes, you're going to be tough when things are not going the way they should be going. You have to call it out. but it is a no blame culture. It's, you call it out, and I always do these things like a post-mortem when something goes wrong, a bit like the doctors. Okay, so what did we do well? What didn't go well? Not to start apportioning blame, but just to make sure that things improve. And sometimes just you have to take the hit on behalf of the team. I mean, that's just part of the job. That's why, as a leader, you have shoulders, and that's just the way it is, right?
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. I believe that leadership is a lifelong learning process, as you said, and there are many challenges we are going to face on the road to outstanding leader. Astrid, what are your biggest challenges when influencing people?
I think it's people's mindset. So it's really, the door has to be cracked open a little bit. And I'm sure we've all worked with people, or we know people privately, that it's always the answer is no, we can't do it, we've tried it before. That's a challenge to me. That door needs to be cracked open so that from there on, again, they start seeing in very subtle ways that they can do things that they didn't think were possible. But there is a mindset. The door has to be cracked open. It doesn't have to be wide open, but if it's firmly closed, that is a definite challenge.
Yes, yes, there is. It's going to be hard to do anything there. Mirha, what price do you pay for being an influential leader? What is your most important lesson you have learned about influence so far?
It's hard to say whether it's a price, because if you're passionate and you love what you do, then I would maybe soften the word. I would say you're making a certain compromises in a life. You have to find time also to reinvest in yourself. This is the investment which our lovely ladies are doing today. So you need to devote time and to keep also working on yourself as a goal. And if that's a goal, then you really have to do not just formal, but informal education. You have to be up to a level. You have to give a certain portion of your time to people outside the working hours and the working offices, and you have to understand the moods. And so there are certain compromises. Probably I could have had more coffees or leisure time. But that was my choice to do a certain compromises, and I think I also, as much as I had to compromise, I also got a great benefit from meeting different people and being in a challenging situations and beating those situations. So I think at the end, it's I wouldn't call it just a price tag. It's something which you decide to do with your life and keep reinvesting. And at the end, I think it's a beautiful road, because if you feel personally that you contributed to somebody's development and you see that person later on happy with what she or he created, I think it's probably a feeling which teacher could have with the kids that she helped to grow up, and somehow it does compensate.
Thank you. Thank you. Maria, would you like to share some challenges?
Yeah, I mean, look, nothing in life happens. Very few people, unless you're a supermodel or whatever, you don't scroll through life and everything has been given to you. I think we all made sacrifices. I certainly made a lot of sacrifices, particularly in my younger years. Personal sacrifices with my time. I worked crazy hours when I was in my early years of my career, unfortunately, I must say. And then I drew the line at some point to say, okay, this is what I'm prepared to do. And took me many, many years to draw a line. And I would say to all the ladies out there, do draw those lines, particularly when it comes to family, because you only have one shot at making a family. It's not, it's not something that you can create again and again. So at some point in my life, I did take that border, had a family, took the mommy track for a couple of years, which was quite painful because I always thought that by the time I'm 40, I'm going to be here, but I spent 10 years on the mummy track, and it took me a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter, you know, if it takes you a little bit longer. These are sort of the balancing act that we, particularly as women, have to do, and men as well, where, you know, if you want to combine career and family, it's not always like this, be like this and this, but eventually you get there. But yes, of course, you have to sacrifice. There are some things, but you have to do it in a way, and that's what I learned, and I learned it a little bit later in my career, not so much in the beginning of my career. As long as you are clear about your targets and what you're willing and where you draw the lines, then it will work. The real problem is when a lot of people don't know how to draw the line, and they get pulled here and pulled there in their careers, and they end up not being in control, and that creates a lot of stress and anxiety. I have a lot of, over the years, I coached a lot of females in their sort of mid-30s and 40s where they said to me, oh, I'm in a dead-end career. I'm not going anywhere. And just because they feel like they've been drawn from one angle to another. So my view is, yes, do sacrifice, but be clear about your boundaries. Very important.
Yes, thank you. The world of work is changing. Inclusive leadership and integrity matter more than ever. Empathetic leadership gains on importance. There are new demands on leadership in times of change and transformation. Maria, let me ask you, how do you influence change and innovation within your organization, and what will you as a leader do differently in the future?
Oh, yeah, I'm a bit of a change junkie. I do quite like change because I'm a bit bored with the same old. And I think we're living in an amazing, amazing time where actually real technological advantages are coming to us. We're not looking for them. I mean, this is the last sort of, particularly in our industry, in the payments industry, you wake up every morning and you hear something new happening or something new change. So you have to have an open mind, but particularly the opportunities that this change is giving you can be stressful. I remember when I first came into payments 6 years ago, I was like, holy smoke, again, this is happening, and then this is happening. You can't keep up anymore, right, with all the changes. But over time, you learn to live with this, and you learn to turn it into your advantage. Not every change will come. You have to sort of think about, this is a change that I'm going to adopt, and this is a change that I'm going to leave behind. As long as you are clear to the objective of your company and of your strategy. Because, you know, again, if your strategy is clear, then the changes come to you that complement your strategy. But if you're not clear about your strategy and where you're going as an organization, you're going to end up like a boat. Oh yeah, let's go over here and then let's go over there. And then we all live through organizations that every 2 or 3 years change the org structure, change their strategy, change their sales environment. That can be extremely, extremely stressful. So as long as within my own remit I can organize that, then I'm kind of happy. But it's not easy. I think Astrid probably smiles and has a similar experience.
I do, and you know, as we were, as I was invited to speak at this panel, we started out with an influencer. When I hear that word, I think an influencer like on social media, like the Kardashians and those kind of people. So I never really thought about myself as an influencer. I thought of myself as a leader. But you know, as time has progressed and we're having these conversations, the thing that I'm going to walk away with is to be even more aware of the fact that I am an influencer, that I am a leader, and to be just more aware of that role that I play indirectly in people's lives.
Yes. Mirha, how about you? How do you, as a leader, influence change in your organization, and what will you do differently in the future?
I was just listening what Maria said. Some people are simply change junkie. You use that word, so I'm just copying from you. I do understand what you need, and organizations need people who shake up and change the things. But we should also understand that, especially due to COVID as a speeder and accelerator of all this, we have a process that we all do understand, and I think people understand also that there that the change is name of the game. Like there is no new reality. Just by the time we get there, it's going to be all over different. So I think I'm going to be more empathic to people, because usually we have the strategies how to change the things, and we also help the people to understand the change it's going to bring. But it's accelerating so much that there is also uncertainty in us, beside the fact that it's changing. And I read an article recently which says it's not the change that people fear, it's the process of change also which you have to take into consideration. So we all now started to manage much more versatile teams which are not even close to us anymore. You can't sense like you used to sense. So I think there are some new leadership styles which is required, but I would say a bit more empathy and servant leadership is definitely needed to help and grow talents and bring them with that change to you, because at the end you need the critical mass of people to support the change. You need a person to bring it, but you need a critical mass of people to trust in order that change in a positive and structured way, still structured way, measurable, happens in most positive way. So I think it's all of us in.
You mentioned something that is really interesting, and I think that this change and transformation is also an inside job. But the outside is changing much faster than this inside. How can we cope with the speed?
You know the saying, if you are, you have to lean. You know, if you are in, sorry, when you do wind surfing, you know, if you wind too close or against, you're going to fall over. You always have to sort of slightly lean on the wind, and I think is that sort of expression of not going with the wind, but be open. From a mentality perspective, and what Mirha also said, show empathy, because people they are fearful of the change, I think, and they're fearful sometimes of what's happening around us. But you know, when you show empathy and first recognition that yes, you know, this might be scary, but don't you worry, we'll somehow fix it. I mean, humanity has gone through many struggles and many problems, and we overcome that. And a bit of a positive message associated with the change. As a leader and as an influencer, you know, you can have positive impact, I think. Because otherwise, you know, if you start saying, oh, this is changing and that's changing, the world is going to go under, and that's not a message for anyone. You know? I think that's my view always, positivity.
I also came across a great quote as I read a lot, and one related to change was the quote was, "I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care." And I thought that was really powerful if you think about it, right? I don't care so much how much you know, but I want to know how much you care, because when you care, that's when change happens.
Yes, thank you so much. We have 44 participants here. I would like to hear some questions from them. I'm sure they have many questions for you. How can we open that? You can use chat, or I think you can only use chat.
Yes, so hi, this is Alana again. I'm back. You can use chat to submit questions. I think we received one question directly. I will post it and ask it right away. How do you think a woman can own her strength as a leader? I will ask it to everybody because it was not asked directly. How do you think a woman can own her strength as a leader?
I'm not sure. Do I fully understand the question? But if I think the woman has a certain advantage in this regards, because you carry a certain emotions and empathy, and you're able to read someone's feelings without them actually telling you. And even though for us it might be sometimes harder because you're doing a multiple tasks all over, you're trying to mingle with your family and friends and house and cooking, and you want to outperform in everything, that's probably a downside. But the benefit is actually that you simply want to also make people around you feel good in their own skin. And I think this gives a certain certain advantage being a woman leader in this respect, because you simply want to feel good about yourself, but you also want to make others feel good about themselves, and you really enjoy making this feeling and seeing people that they found themselves, that they supported. I think the colleagues mentioned few examples in their life that, you know, after 20 years, if they got a positive feedback, it made them also very positive. And I think this feeling, females have a feeling of need to cherish and grow things, and I think it gives us a certain advantage. We like flower to grow, we like whatever it grows, we just enjoy the momentum.
Thank you.
Sorry if there are some guys in the audience.
I think being authentic ultimately also as a female, so you don't have to copy. There's no such thing as a male role model. I think, you know, where we are right now, both female have some really good characteristics, men have some good characteristics. It wasn't like in the old days when I started working, where some of my old female bosses who grew up in the 70s and 80s. I mean, most of them behaved like the typical male archetype. I mean, I think both Astrid and Mirha probably know what I mean. You don't see that anymore, which is great, I think. As females, we don't need to copy male anymore. We stand on our own, be nurturing in a different type of style, actually.
I think
We have a next question.
nicely. Well, I was going to
Sorry.
answer to make a bridge to the next question, which is, you know, cut off in terms of age. I said there's no cutoff. And when I look at myself, you know, when I was that young leader, age 30, and where I am now, there's a world difference. And I like this older one much better because you have so much more experience to draw on, and you realize what's really important, and you realize how you can make you can do very small things to make a big difference to someone. And particularly as you know, women, we're trying to juggle so many things: careers, families, parents, friends, hobbies, you name it. I think you just realize that, you know, you can't do it all at once, so you do pieces of it, and then at the end you do things that just make you feel really good. So there is no cutoff in age. It only gets better. And I wouldn't have said that when I was 30 years old, by the way, but I realize that now.
Yeah, that's so true. I always thought when I was younger, oh yeah, I gotta make it by 35, or that's so wrong in so many ways. And I don't think it's age related at all. And also I think that obsession with youth, I don't think we see that much in companies. I don't think anymore. I mean, I think you see a lot of leaders of all age groups. I think that is really something which I celebrate over the last years, that it doesn't, you don't hear that much, oh, young and up, yes, it's a young and upcoming and old and upcoming. I don't think that matters anymore. What matters is the quality of the leadership.
Thank you. What is the best advice you can give to someone trying to progress in their career? That was the first part of the question.
Maybe I can.
For me, I love it when people put up their hand and say, I have an idea. Can we try this? So and it's regardless of what your role, your function is in the company. Once upon a time in a company, I had someone, for whatever reasons, who just really, really disliked our bid management system. And we hardly did any. We did like 2 a year. But she goes, oh, it pains me to see the way this is done. Let me fix it. This is how I'd want to do it or recommend you do it. So she drew it up and I said, please go ahead. And she wasn't even on my team. She was in like a totally different department. Anyway, we transferred her over, but it's those kind of things that stand out to me. People who say, like, I have an idea, I have a solution, can we try this? So volunteer, right? Make sure you have substance behind it, a plan. But as a leader, that's what I look for, someone who goes beyond.
I would also say that you really have to work on yourself all the time, whether it's education, whether it's reading, you have to invest in yourself. In certain moments, there's a bit of luck for all of us, where somebody simply in that moment trusted you. But if you're not ready and prepared to grab that luck on that day, then none of that is going to happen. And what do I mean by luck? It's like do a lot of networking. Be present. If you have an opportunity to show yourself in front of senior and important people like Astrid mentioned, use the opportunity. So be brave. Just show there because you also need an opportunity. When it does, all the work you invested in yourself will at that moment shine. So I think it's A plus B. The right moment will come. You have to be prepared, but don't just wait that you wake up and somebody is going to come and pick you from your bed. You just have to, constantly be there and be active and as Astrid said, volunteer. Don't miss any opportunity which you have to be on the side of people which
Yeah. And building on that, just doing your job, nobody will notice you. You will have to do something, either an initiative of yours that makes you noticeable, or what I also tell a lot of people, go out, meaning that, there's so many conferences, there's so many kind of new things that you can learn, where you can gather information about what other companies are doing in your field, become an expert, be passionate about something, which, it goes beyond your company. Just sitting in your desk and always doing your job which goes from here to here, nobody, even if you do it brilliantly, you're never really going to pop up. And because Astrid says, and Mirha as well, we are always looking for leaders that will take the initiative. I think that's what companies need right now, particularly in an environment that constantly changes, even more so. It's not static anymore as it used to be.
We have another question. How you have adapted your leadership and influencing skills in this virtual environment we are all working in?
I think we need to, in my case, very, very diligent with regards to communication back to my team. In many ways, you try to over-communicate, but also be very clear not to overload people with too many meetings. So in my previous company, as soon as we came and started working virtually, I've noticed very quickly that we were basically in Zoom or team calls from morning until night. That's completely counterproductive. So at least within my team, I said, guys, 1 hour at lunchtime, no meetings, no nothing, all of you, the whole team, just blank out that 1 hour, go out, get a walk, eat, speak to your wife, your husband. And we did it consistently across the team, and it worked. Of course, then for me, for example, it wasn't working because I was dealing with other departments backwards and forwards. But you have to respect the boundaries of the people. I think that's the big thing we learned here, because our work all of a sudden has expanded and it's everywhere. It's in our bedrooms, it's in our living rooms, it's from morning until night, and that is just not sustainable. I've seen people really freak out over too much work. Even that, yes, we all work very hard, but even that kind of going from the office back to work, you have a break, and now you don't anymore. And it's important that you create this. I encourage people to, over the weekends, for example, to pack away their computer, change their desk, so it doesn't remind them of work. It's really serious, I think. And if we continue to work like this, we have to create new modus operandi for people who work from home. Otherwise, that's just not sustainable.
I think what's also helped at the beginning of COVID, we, like many companies, we had to furlough some people on our staff. And it was really important to just keep in touch with them. And some of them wanted just a WhatsApp, a text message saying, hey, how's it going? And there are other people who I get regular reports on saying, hey, I finished repainting my living room. or people say, hey, I built this in the backyard. Look at what I'm doing. And I think it's making sure you're also informal. The talks that we used to have at the coffee machine, you can do those virtual. And it is important to ask someone how the puppy training's going or whatever it is, because that's what makes us human. So I agree in terms of, yes, we don't need to have back-to-back video calls. It becomes too much. Everyone needs a break. I would just add to that, make sure you have those informal chats. And some people will still want to have that Zoom call to have the informal chat and show you what they've done at their house. And other people say, hey, just send me a WhatsApp. I'd love to just share this little video with you. But contact is the main thing. And that also goes for customers, by the way. I actually found that during COVID, and I work in the industry, payments industry, but it was very travel specific. And that industry was impacted very, very hard. And what I found out is actually by having the video calls and having my customers, seeing my customers in, also, well, not in their office. Sometimes they were on a couch in the living room. Sometimes they were in a baby's room, the dog barking. I actually thought of put a bit of humanity back into it. And I actually found that I ended up having stronger relationships because all of a sudden we were two people discussing. And it wasn't just, the customer and me being the lady from corporate, but it was a very different dimension. So I think having the communication, and for me, talking works better than any email. Even if it's a 3-minute conversation, pick up the phone better than the emails.
Thank you. We have also another question. Where do you find your motivation when you need it?
I think it's also a fair question to us, because I recognize that people also do recognize that everybody needs a motivation. It's not something like a certain position just brings you, that we also have ups and downs, that we also have situations which, even if job is well done, you feel totally emotionally exhausted, that you also need to sometimes digest a lot of things in order to be positive tomorrow. But then the balance in your life, and I think colleagues also mentioned the important thing, have a hobby, whether it's a cooking, have a family, have somebody to keep you down to earth, have a normal environment where, for whom it doesn't matter what you did that day or what did you do to hire, fire, engage, what are your KPIs, just a normal environment, whether it's a puppy, whether it's the cooking, which I also love because it's extremely relaxing, and whether it's, I don't know, husband you can take a walk, whether those are small kids which you have to do homework and simply take lessons of a language which is unknown to you. Like, you cannot be 25 hours in work. This is not example you should give to your people. This is not effective. You can't bring new ideas. You're just becoming negative over time because you can't consume. And if you don't reinvest in yourself, there's nothing more to give. And we're not just giving, as Astrid said, knowledge, we're giving emotion. So you also need to bring something in you. So close the phone, do something different, completely different, read a book, take a walk, watch a movie which has nothing to do with your business, not a documentary about payments. Do something which is really outside the box in order to refresh your mind, but most important, to refresh your emotions, because consumption of energy during a day can be enormous.
Thank you. Did I skip one question here? I see one more question, but I think I skipped one question. Can you support me with this?
Yes, of course. So I think the question that we also missed is, aside from someone verbally confirming, how can you gauge the reach, effectiveness, and impact of your influence?
I think by observing. A lot of people, maybe if I look at my own kids, I've done a good job influencing them when they actually manage to put their dishes back into the dishwasher after we finish, right? That's a behavior. They're not saying that, hey, I've put my dishes in the dishwasher. They've actually done it. At the office, I think it's the same way. When finally someone actually does something a little bit different, or when they reach out to someone to ask them to explain it in a different way. It's not easy to admit you don't understand something. You just don't get it, and that's fine. We've all been there. I think that's the change in behavior that I'm looking for. Those subtle changes where someone goes, oh yeah, I can do this, or hey, you know what? I started taking those tennis lessons that I've always wanted to, but now during COVID, when I'm not traveling at all, I can actually make sure I go to tennis lessons every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. or whatever it is. So for me, it's looking at those subtle changes. And what I notice is people tend to be more balanced, and I can read it on their faces. They smile more, they stand up straighter, they have a little bit spring in their step. That's what I look for.
We have a few more minutes left, but there are two interesting questions here in chat, and I would like to ask that. One is, how do you address, if you see a lack of authenticity in your colleagues or others, how do you address it? And the second question is, what will be the biggest challenge for the generation of women who will come after you, and how can we help them now?
Maybe I can take over the first question. I'm trying not to deal myself. I'm trying to have a peer group, and this is also a process for his or her colleagues, to do a feedback session. And I think it's very useful to kind of motivate the team to have an open feedback. If the person really has, how to say, is not authentical and they do understand, if majority of colleagues understand, then the feedback will be also such. But I'm trying to avoid that I'm playing a judge in a case where just one person sees it and I should actually translate to. So if it's really a person who's not authentic, then I try to engage team in the feedback session. And if it's true, it's going to come out. And if it's not true, I just avoided the mistake of being part of game, which also happens. We have to understand. But I think, and this is what we will see more in the leadership. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's about us as a team, and which values do we as a team have, and which values do we want to cherish and nurture, and which values we as a team also have to have responsibility to not have in our team, or to continue with that. And it's not individual values anymore, it's about the culture of the company, of the unit, which is responsible. It's much more about the team. And look for allies in the team who also have the same opinion, I would say, because power of voices is stronger than power of voice.
Sure.
Thank you.
I can take maybe on the other question on the generation of women. I think not just for women, but in general, going forward, my hypothesis is that work will be much more, people will have multiple careers as well as multiple jobs. So this whole model in the past where, I join a company and I expect to have a career within the company, or that the company would nurture my career, is probably already history, in the sense that it will be very important for young women today to think about themselves and their career and the career path they are taking, not within the context of one company, but within the context of the skills that they are building for themselves. So, you know, I sometimes always like to do a bit of an audit trail on my CV to say, okay, if someone looks at my CV, what is the kind of skill set that keeps shouting out? And what additional skill set do I need to build? So it's a completely different point of view as to, okay, I will join XYZ company and I will have a career there, or then I'll join to the other company and I will have a career there. It's more of a view of, you know, I'm a professional, almost like my own agent, and what do I need to do, what skills do I need to obtain, what experiences and experience do I need to start mastering in order to have a career, which will probably go a little bit like this and a little bit like that, because of the way the work is changing. You know, it'll be much more freelance work, much more sort of frequent changes of careers, and maybe multiple careers as well at the same time. We don't know that, but I think it's more centric at the individual and less so as me being an employee of a specific company.
Thank you very much. We are reaching the end of our panel discussion. I would like to thank you for sharing your rich experience with us, and would like to say that leadership has no gender. But if we want women's needs to be included in global policies, in global development policies, then we also need to have women in leading positions where they can actively participate in creating changes. So we do need to support gender balanced leadership. Thank you one more time. And Elena, thank you for organizing this, and it's your board.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nadina. Thank you, Astrid, Maria, and Mirha. Really enjoyed your session today. I would like to also thank all the participants who joined us today and participated in our discussion on leadership and influence. If you have any other questions related to achieving a sustained high performance or maximizing your leadership potential, you can contact Nadina or reach out to any of the speakers also on LinkedIn. And if you would like to reach out to the EWPN content team, you can contact us as well under content@ewpn.eu. And once you leave your today's webinar, you will receive a link to the recording, and we'll be posting it on our YouTube channel. Our next event will be held on 11th of March, and the topic is optimizing payments funnel post-COVID. For more details for this event and future events, please visit our website. On behalf of EWPN, thank you for joining us today and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.